The first day of teaching is something every teacher remembers for a lifetime. The memory, vivid and raw, often becomes a part of who we are. For me, it was no different. Even now, after so many years, I can still recall that morning as though it happened only yesterday. The classroom smelled faintly of chalk and freshly polished wood. The old desks, though shiny from years of care, bore the marks of countless small hands that had leaned on them, carved initials into their corners, and spilled ink across their surfaces. The sunlight streamed lazily through tall windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the warm glow. It was a sight that filled me with both nervousness and anticipation. Before me sat 20 bright young faces. Some smiled eagerly, their eyes sparkling with curiosity. Others looked down shyly, fiddling with their pencils, unsure of what to expect from me, their new teacher. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to take a deep breath, pick up the chalk, and write my name across the blackboard, Miss Clara. I turned to the class with a smile. "My name is Miss Clara," I said softly, though my voice trembled slightly. "I am your new teacher. I look forward to this year with you." That was when I noticed him. He sat in the very front row, small and quiet, as if trying to shrink into himself. His clothes were wrinkled and ill-fitting, his hair messy, and his eyes, though wide, seemed weighed down by something heavy, something far beyond his years. His name, I soon learned, was Tommy. I must confess with shame that I judged him immediately. Something about his unkempt appearance unsettled me. When he answered a question, I sighed, irritated by his hesitant tone. When he handed me his work, I frowned at the untidy handwriting. I found myself gravitating toward the brighter, cleaner children, those who seemed eager and well-prepared. Without realizing it, I began pushing Tommy further and further away. Weeks passed. My irritation with him grew like a thorn I couldn't ignore. He seemed careless, lazy, distracted. I wondered if he even wanted to learn. Then one afternoon, the principal asked me to review each child's past records. "It will help you understand them better," she advised kindly. That evening, long after the children had gone home, I sat alone at my desk. The classroom was quiet, the sun had dipped below the horizon, and the soft hum of the radiator was the only sound that kept me company. I opened the first file, then the next. Eventually, my hands reached Tommy's folder. His first grade teacher had written, "Tommy is a bright child, always cheerful, works neatly, has many friends." I blinked in disbelief. Bright? Cheerful? Could this be the same boy? I turned the page. His second grade teacher's note read, "Tommy is an excellent student, loved by everyone, but his mother is very ill. Life at home is becoming difficult." My chest tightened. I read on, my fingers trembling. The third grade record said, "Mother's death has been very hard on him. He tries his best, but his father shows little interest. Home life is empty." And then, from his fourth grade teacher, "Tommy is withdrawn. Doesn't talk much. Shows little interest in school. Appears to have no hope." I lowered the file and pressed my hands against my face. Tears welled in my eyes. In that moment, the truth washed over me like a tidal wave. I had been blind. This child wasn't careless. He wasn't lazy. He was broken. A little boy carrying grief no one should ever bear. He had lost his mother, and instead of giving him compassion, I had punished him for his pain. Shame burned through me. But with the shame came resolve. I could not undo the weeks I had wasted, but I could change the days ahead. The very next morning, I greeted Tommy differently. Instead of frowning at his crumpled paper, I smiled and said, "I can see you tried, Tommy. Well done." When he stumbled over an answer, instead of sighing, I encouraged him, "That was close. You're getting better." At first, his eyes flickered with doubt, as if waiting for the scolding that always followed. But slowly, cautiously, I began to see a spark in them. Small changes followed. He began to raise his hand, timidly at first, then with more confidence. His handwriting grew neater. His work became more consistent. Most importantly, a faint smile sometimes appeared on his face, a fragile glimpse of the child he used to be. Then came Christmas. On the last day before the holidays, the children brought me gifts. My desk filled with packages wrapped in colorful paper, tied with ribbons and bows. Their joy was contagious, and I laughed as I opened each one. Tommy approached me last. His steps were hesitant, his eyes cast downward. In his hands, he held a small package, wrapped in a crumpled brown bag. A few children giggled, whispering among themselves. I carefully opened it. Inside lay a bracelet, its stones missing in places, and a half-used bottle of perfume. My heart caught in my throat. I lifted the bracelet gently and slipped it onto my wrist. Then I dabbed the perfume onto my hand. "How lovely, Tommy," I said with genuine warmth. "Thank you so much." The classroom fell silent. The children saw my sincerity and, in that moment, they understood the value of kindness. After school, Tommy lingered by my desk. His eyes glistened with unshed tears as he whispered, "Miss Clara, today you smell just like my mom used to." My heart broke in two. I hugged him tightly and promised myself I would never let him feel unseen again. From that day, everything changed. Tommy blossomed like a flower finally given sunlight. He asked questions eagerly, his work improved, and laughter returned to his eyes. The other children, noticing the transformation, began including him once more. The classroom became warmer, not just for Tommy, but for all of us. Years passed. I taught many children, but none etched themselves into my heart quite like Tommy. One day, a letter arrived in the mail. In neat handwriting it read, "Dear Miss Clara, I wanted you to be the first to know. I have finished high school. I was third in my class. Thank you for believing in me. Yours, Tommy." Tears filled my eyes as I read his words. A few years later, another letter came. "Dear Miss Clara, I wanted you to know I have finished college. It was hard, but I made it. You were the one who pushed me to believe I could. With gratitude, Tommy." I placed the letter carefully in a drawer where I kept my most treasured mementos. Then came the letter that touched me most of all. "Dear Miss Clara, I am getting married soon. I would be honored if you would sit where my mother would have sat at my wedding." The wedding day arrived. As I took my seat in the front row, my hands trembled, not from age, but from pride. On my wrist gleamed the old bracelet Tommy had once given me, its missing stones more precious than diamonds. I watched him standing tall and confident at the altar, waiting for his bride. The little boy with untidy hair and sad eyes was gone. In his place was a man who had learned to shine again. After the ceremony, Tommy leaned down, his voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for making me feel special. Thank you for believing in me." I whispered back, tears streaming down my cheeks, "You were the one who taught me what it truly means to be a teacher." And as I sat there, surrounded by love and celebration, I realized that teaching had never been just about lessons, books, or grades. It was about seeing the invisible, lifting the broken, and believing in the ones the world overlooks. Tommy taught me that. And for the rest of my career, I carried his lesson with me into every classroom, every year, with every child. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspirational stories that remind us of the power of kindness and belief. Sparkles.